Hey guys, I've been promising one of these comparison videos for quite a while now, and I finally decided I'm gonna make one. So, yeah, it's in the title. You can see it right now. It's Guild Wars 2 versus Rift versus WoW. I'm gonna be going over a lot of different areas of the games. I'm not gonna be judgmental or biased in any way. Because I've quit both WoW and Rift, and, well, Guild Wars hasn't been released yet, so, you know, I don't know what's going to happen yet, but I do know a lot of things, because ArenaNet has been very open lately about their development, and, you know, WoW and Rift are already out there, and all the info is there, so I'm going to go ahead and compare the two. So first off, we've got graphics. WoW has old and outdated graphics, yes, but that's what to expect from a 2004 production game. And it's still the biggest game in the market right now, so that's what people expect. So it doesn't matter whether it's graphics from 1989 or 2011. If it's the biggest in the market, then you can't change the fact that it's still there. Can't instantly, kill the game. As for Rift, well, Rift's graphics are, well, a tiny bit better. Depends what kind of rig you've got to kind of handle those graphics, but there's not too much difference there. As I said, Rift does have, well, kind of better graphics, but the lowest settings aren't really that great to compare WoW with. As for Guild Wars 2, we know that the graphics in Guild Wars 2 will be amazing, as seen from all the demos we've seen so far, published by ArenaNet and seen at Gamescom and PAX and all that stuff. So that's the graphics. Next up is music, and music is the most vital thing. It probably even comes before graphics. Dare I say that, but it really does. I mean, do you remember, if you played WoW, do you remember just, well, it depends if you played Alliance or not, but, do you remember playing and going to start off in Northshire, you head out to Goldshire in the night, and you hear that Elwyn Forest music? It's just magical. I mean, at the end of the day, if you end up playing Skyrim, and then you come back to WoW 2 hours later, and you look at the game and you say, wow, this game is total crap, you're still going to notice the music and you're still going to love it because it brings that nostalgia theme back into your head, and that's really important. And I just picked out that exact piece of music, but WoW has a lot of great scores, and like Legends of Azeroth, I could go on to name a lot more that are just amazing compositions, amazing pieces of music. As for Rift, it introduces dynamic uses for audio, like within the rifts, and it uses different instrumental kind of effects, which I kind of feel was, well, maybe nicked off Guild Wars 2, but you can never be sure. But as for Guild Wars 2, this introduces a whole new, well, tier of music. I mean, it's just got fantastic compositions, and the guy who writes these scores, Jeremy Soule, makes this music match up and go beyond, far beyond what WoW and Rift were, well, never be able to achieve. And in my opinion, that makes Guild Wars 2, well, the best MMO ever released, audio-wise. I'll go on to the other things. So, dynamic content. First off, WoW. Back in 2004, there was no such thing as dynamic content. You've got to keep this in mind. It is a 7-year-old game. There are limitations to what you can do with a 7-year-old engine. And, well, Blizzard has not scrapped the engine at any point. Had Blizzard scrapped the engine a few years ago and replaced it by now, they might have had some chance to revive the game and stop it from dying a slow and cold death, but Blizzard has pretty much run out of time now to do that. But yes, there is no such thing as dynamic content in WoW. If you say there is, then you're all wrong. Rift did introduce dynamic PvE content. I know that they have released PvP rifts in 1.4. I haven't checked them out myself, but they do seem to be pretty nice. As for Guild Wars 2, this introduces well, loads more, as you'd expect. It introduces dynamic world PvP content as well as PvE. I feel that the dynamic events in Rift were kind of... I don't know how to put this. Kind of staged and clumped together, if you know what I mean. In Rift you had invasions, rifts, and footholds, right? And then you had major invasions and whatever. In Guild Wars 2, there's no such thing as an invasion or a rift or whatever. In Guild Wars 2, it's completely unique. As for in Rift, it is set events, and if you get a life rift, you'll do a life event, and there are a set number of life events for each zone. And in Guild Wars 2, there are hidden dynamic events. There's scaling in the dynamic events. It's very much so more polished, I feel, than the Rift dynamic system. As for endgame, well, WoW has the raids. They're old and outdated, and I know a lot of people... I did raid back in the day, but it isn't fun anymore, really. I mean, people who do raid for fun, I have no problem with. They're good people. If they enjoy raiding, that's fine, but people need more choices. You can't just have raiding as the set endgame. With Rift, there's not much else to do. There is PvP advancement, which is the prestige system, and they have raids as well. But there is one thing that Rift is doing in patch 1.5 that is alternate advancement, and that should be pretty interesting to look at. But in Guild Wars 2, there's no such thing as an endgame, and that's the greatest ever point about Guild Wars 2. There's no end to it. Hitting the max level is literally just the start, because there's no leveling curve. With WoW, you've got to grind, but it's got pretty epic questing from 1 to 60. The system was scrapped, and they fully replaced it. You've also got epic questing from 68 to 85, Northrend and the Cataclysm content. In Rift, you got epic questing all the way, which is pretty well done. And of course, in Guild Wars 2, you've got no leveling curve from 20 to 80, which is pretty awesome. As for money, well, WoW you have to subscribe and pay to buy. This is fine, though it may change in the future. This is what is expected, again, from a 2004 released game. As for Rift, this is difficult, because Rift also requires you to pay for the game and pay for the subscription monthly. This is bad, because Rift had very bad timing. It had a terrible release. Timeline-wise, if Trion had released Rift a few years earlier, they would have been a major competitor for WoW. They might have really hit WoW really badly, but because of the time that we're in right now, it didn't really hit WoW that badly, because we're in the middle of two stages. We're in the middle of WoW dying and Guild Wars 2, being born. And it is a really bad time for Trion to have released the game. It's just come out this March, it's really a new game. It is a good game, but it's up to par with WoW, and that's the problem. WoW is dying out. Trion decided to go along with the little tactic, I suppose. If you can't beat WoW, you have to mimic it in every way possible, and that's pretty much what they did, let's be honest. They did do that, and it worked. The game was successful, it had a smooth launch, it was really polished. 8 out of 10, 9 out of 10 reviews, of course. But it will also go down with WoW as a result. That's the bad thing, because it's got... well, Rift doesn't have that much to show for itself, really. Other than the, dynamic content, there isn't really anything else. Whereas Guild Wars 2 has a whole plethora of different things that just so much new stuff. If you haven't seen it already, go and watch the trailers and, visit the ArenaNet blog, because it's really fun to read and, see how everything's panning out. It's just amazing how much Guild Wars 2 is doing. For instance, they scrapped the questing system in Guild Wars 2, except for personal story. That's amazing. That is, pretty much, killing a core mechanic and replacing it with the dynamic content. Rift has both, and that doesn't really mix that well, in my opinion. So WoW has no dynamic content, but it still has the questing system. Rift has both, and Guild Wars just has the dynamic content. So that is kind of weird, isn't it? So let's have a look at population. WoW still has an average server population. It's not deserted by far. There are a lot of high populated servers in WoW, and you know, there are loads of them. Rift is pretty deserted, however. This is why the subs are a drawback. Rift shouldn't have a subscription fee because it doesn't introduce enough unique content to be a major competitor to, you know, leech WoW subscribers. It doesn't have enough it doesn't have enough unique content. However, for the burnt out WoW player, it is a good experience for a while, but if you're anything like me, you will get burnt out again very quickly on Rift. And yeah, that's Rift. But with Guild Wars 2, which is buy to play, the server population should be pretty damn high, if you think about it, because there's no subscription. And I hope that the server population is really high, because that gets loads and loads of people getting involved with the game, and hopefully it will mean a great release for ArenaNet and a great release for us, because we've been waiting for this since 2007. The game is coming out either the end of this year or 2012 Q1, and you know, that's all well and good. I didn't want to force an impression like a lot of others do about any of these games being useless or obsolete. WoW was pretty much a step up a long time ago, and it's had its fair share of years at the top. There's no real telling how much WoW will, you know, keep going. And Blizzard already planned a 4th and 5th expansion along with the movie on their slate, which is pretty much been confirmed now. If you haven't heard of that already, you should go and check MMO Champion. There's pretty solid proof about that. In terms of competition with Rift, WoW is completely fine. There's nothing to worry about with Rift. So Guild Wars 2 is the next step up though, so WoW should be worrying terribly. Blizzard should be trying to do something, if anything, really, to change WoW, to turn the things around, or, you know, to just go back to the drawing board and see what they can do in order to compete with Guild Wars 2, which is going to be a really, really difficult task at the end of the day. Tryon Worlds produced an excellent game that would have been able to compete had it been released a few years earlier, but now it is the completely wrong time to do so. In a kind of way, I feel sorry for Rift because of its competition and the fact that it's up to par with WoW and it beats it in terms of graphics, but it's just bad luck really. Blizzard has run out of time. It's impossible for them right now to completely rework WoW in order to compete with Guild Wars 2. ArenaNet has called checkmate, and I'm really happy about it. Blizzard spent, 3 years developing WoW, from 2001 to 2004. Tryon has an excellent reputation, however, for delivering fast content. Rift took a lot less time, and the content patches are coming out every 3 months. As for ArenaNet, 4 years and counting. This is an incredibly good thing. One game with over 60 films worth of voice recordings that has taken as long as the 3 Lord of the Rings films put together. That is a good sign. Though movies and games can't really be compared by any stretch of the imagination, it just goes to show that ArenaNet care about their future customers deeply. Why? Because they legitimately care about the